So a new study has just come out looking at the difference between male narcissists and female narcissists and how they process the world, and what this means for you is what we're going to be discussing today. Now, if you're new to this channel, we're looking at everything narcissistic, looking at how to heal, how to move on, how to recover from narcissistic abuse. So don't forget to subscribe and join this amazing community of people who are just like you, trying to move forward with their lives, not going to let a narcissist get in their way. Now, when we're looking at what the difference is between male and female narcissists, we really need to go back to the beginning. We need to look at what it was to start with that started off the whole process of being a narcissist. Now, there's two extremes, okay? So you've got two extremes of parenting. Now, as a narcissist growing up, you were obviously born, or the narcissist was obviously born as a blank slate, pretty much, okay? There's obviously some genetics involved in everyone and that kind of thing. But the studies are showing that if you were born with parents who were overly enthusiastic, overly kind of helicopter parenting over you, they're constantly telling you you're amazing, they're constantly over you all the time, and not letting anything bad happen to you, worrying about you all the time, basically treating you as if you are really entitled, like you're entitled to this is my child, and fighting every battle for you, not letting you fight your battles, basically treating you like you're some kind of prince or princess, then you could quite easily turn into this kind of narcissistic behavior traded person, because you're going to go into the world grown up thinking that you're entitled to whatever you want because your mum and your dad told you were, because nothing ever bad happened to you, which can leave you in this kind of state where you're not really seeing the reality of the world. So this is one way, this extreme on this side of how narcissists are created. Now, but then on the other side, you have that side where the parents just weren't there for their children. The caregiver wasn't there for their children, or they were there, but they didn't give them the love that they needed. They never told them anything positive. They were the scapegoat. They told them that they weren't good enough. Everything was a transaction. They ignored them, or they were there just to look after the parents. They learned to, that they didn't matter. They learned that the parent is what matters, that everyone else matters but them, and they had to fend for themselves. And if they were ever to get any feelings of satisfaction, of love, or to survive in the world, they learned that they couldn't trust anyone. They learned that the only person they could trust was themselves, because they went deep inside themselves. They shut out the outside world. They shut out all the pain, all the noise, and they created this fantasy world, this fantasy delusion themselves. And in this world, they can live the life that they want to live, where they're special, they're important, everything that they want to be, everything that they wished that their caregiver, their parent, had told them that they were. So when this didn't happen, and they became this narcissist, this person wrapped up within themselves, they then went off into the world with this belief, with this framework around them, believing that this was going to be their world, and everything in this world was there for them. So you have these two different opposing ways that people become kind of very narcissistically behaving. Now, as a female, as a male, you're then going into a society that already has another load of frames, has another load of ways of seeing the world, another load of stories, another load of beliefs, another load of lies, if you will, because that's what they are. Any belief is just a story. So all these beliefs that the world then gives you, depending on what culture you're in, depending on who your friends at school are, depending on who your teachers are, depending on what the social economical status of the city, the country that you're in, they then add on all these values. And if you look at the way that babies are treated when they're, girls, they wear pink, and boys, they're wearing blue, and boys are given guns and they're given army tanks, and then girls are given Barbies and this kind of thing. They're given Cindy dolls, all this sort of feminine sort of culture, these feminine ideas that are put upon them. And this continues, and they start to look up to role models, and their role models often are very narcissistic in themselves. So females are looking up to these narcissists of, dressing really nice. They're kind of the Chanel, they're kind of Gucci, they're kind of always, always on the magazines, always looking perfect, spotless. That's their very kind of high status kind of thing. Very sexualized, not very, intelligent. And then on the other hand, you have the men, and they're looking up to the powerful people, men with power, the men who have respect, the men who can have anything they want, the men who never smile, the men who have no vulnerabilities. Yeah, so you have these two kind of narcissistic cultural elements that are then impressed onto these two different people, these two different babies, if you were, who are growing up through different narcissistic spectrums already. Then they grow into their world. Now, with females, you find that they are very much into, how they look, their sexuality, how they're going to be perceived. They're probably going to be attracted to men with high status, because then the status will rub off on them. They're probably going to be quite, vulnerable, or not allow themselves to be vulnerable, if you will, because they're worried that it will rub off on them. They're worried that their true self will come out and they'll be seen as weak. Men, on the other hand, they're kind of the opposite. They're very much going to show that they're strong, and they're never going to cry, and they're going to always have the right answer, and they're going to be kind of know-it-alls. So this is, again, another fantasy role that they just end up playing. And when you have these two roles, this then creates conflict. Now, in this study that's just come out, they've looked at all these females, and looked at all these narcissistic males, and they've noticed that narcissistic men on the whole, do not see anything wrong with being narcissistic, because the culture kind of says it's okay to be narcissistic, it's okay to be entitled, it's okay to get what you want. This kind of capitalistic, kind of free market economy, you get what you want and you get it, and you're an alpha male and you're a predator. And that's actually, like cheered on. Whereas the female in that same culture, when they try and be more entitled, when they try and be more, aggressive, whatever, they're going to get labeled as, you're just being a bit, silly girl, and this kind of thing. So it's actually a negative often for females who have these narcissistic traits or the similarities to men. So what they've noticed is that women actually suffer. Narcissistic women, they're less likely to talk about their being narcissistic. They're going to try and hide it a lot more, and they're going to suffer more mentally, because they don't actually enjoy, being narcissistic, because it's actually frowned upon by society. Women are not meant to be narcissists. They're not meant to be high power. They're not meant to be in control. They're not meant to, be moody and talk bad and get angry. Whereas men are. If men get angry, that's seen as a sign of, oh, look at them. They're alpha male kind of thing. They're a leader. They're a boss. Not that anything that's true, but that's the societal values that are put upon us. So male narcissists, they're quite happy, and they've got no need to change. They're not really into, that self-reflection, because it actually works for them. It gives them the things that they think that they want. It gives them the money, it gives them the status, it gives them the power. Whereas for the females, if they act narcissistic, they have to hide it a lot more, because they're worried about it. So actually their mental health has been shown to suffer. Now, if you're dealing with a narcissist, if you're dealing with a female narcissist, or you're dealing with a male narcissist, understanding this is one of the true keys to working through it. Because knowing what they want, knowing what their weaknesses are, knowing what their strengths are, is how you're going to get through to the other side, how you're going to be able to live a life that you truly deserve. So if this video was useful, please subscribe and stay tuned for the next video.